thought about putting on a Pints and Properties for VA loans specifically, because I just thought that it was such like a commonly known subject. And then it really hit me last month at Pints and Properties. I was talking to an active duty guy, and he was like, how do I get into investing? I was like, use your VA loan, duh. And he's like, I didn't think I could use that until I retired. And I was like, okay, we gotta do a class. So here we are. So let's talk about, what is a VA loan? A VA loan is the most powerful lending program on the market, period. It allows for a purchase of a property for 0% down, which, like, can we just stop and appreciate that for a minute? Because it's like the coolest thing ever. You can get, you know, $400,000+ house for 0% down. It's insane. Awesome, so that's beautiful. Who's eligible? All service members of any branch, not all, but service members of any branch are eligible for the VA loan. So that's Army, Air Force, Marines, all of it. And that includes active duty members, people who have retired, people who are discharged other than dishonorable discharge, and then people of the Reserve and National Guard. And so there are some time requirements on when you can get approved for these loans. But I did bring, so Casey Mock, can you say hi? She's back there. So she's a part of our Genius FAR. We have 3 people in our Genius FAR. We have Casey Mock, who's our lender. We have Toby, who's the Airbnb property manager. He's back there. Yep. And then we have T. Dudley, who is a contractor. So if you have questions on those specific subjects throughout this, feel free to hit them up afterwards. They're freaking awesome, and we use them personally, so they're legit. They've been pre-screened. Other people who are eligible for the VA loan are spouses who have not married of a veteran who's died in service or died of a service-connected disability, and then also a spouse of a service member who's been missing in action or a prisoner of war. So not a lot of people know those either. And then also cadets can get a VA loan. They can use theirs. And so that's USMA people, the Air Force Academy, Coast Guard, Naval Academy, that sort of thing. And so all of those people are potentially eligible for this loan, but all of them have to have adequate credit and sufficient income in order to qualify. Because the VA loan, so the VA has no like max debt to income ratio, and the VA has no minimum credit score. But the VA isn't the one who gives you the money to buy the house. The lender is. So you have to meet their requirements in order to qualify for this loan. And their requirements do vary slightly lender to lender, and the lowest credit score I've seen around here is 580-ish, but usually it's right around 600. So pretty much anyone can qualify, which is cool. And then also real quick on lenders. So a lot of people have this misconception that they need to go through like USAA or Veterans United or something like that, but you don't have to go through those contacts in order to get your loan, and we actually highly recommend local lenders every single time, because with USAA, and granted I use them for banking, you know, that sort of thing, they're not bad, but like you're just another name to them. It's not like a personal connection, and they don't care, it's just their file. So I mean, some people do care, but in my experience it's much better to go with a local lender. And Casey did not pay me to say that, so I'm joking, huh? Okay, cool. All right, so how can you use your VA loan? You can use it to build a house from the ground up. You can use it to buy and renovate a home, which is like super cool. It's the VA reno loan. And Casey knows a lot more about that. So actually down the road, we're gonna do a whole class on the VA reno loan, and then also how to buy and improve a home with energy efficient improvements. Because those are 2 giant rabbit holes that I'm not gonna go into right now, but just know that it's possible. And it's an awesome opportunity to have still that 0% down and completely renovate or completely update that 1920s Haymount home that's really cool, that has like, you know, terrible windows or whatever. Okay, cool. And then also, as you guys know, it can be used to buy a home, and this includes a single family home, condos, townhomes, and then the coolest part ever is that you can buy a residential multifamily home. So this is 2 to 4 units, guys. Like, holy crap, you can put 0% down and get up to 4 units. Like, that's amazing. So in the crowd right now, like, who is an actual investor? Would you call yourself an investor? Okay, cool. Do we have any just like normal, never heard of like investing in real estate, really? Like just wants to know about the VA loan for them and their families? Yeah. Yay! Cool, thank you for coming. I know you actually. Okay. So for the investor-minded people out there, as well as those who've never considered it before, being able to buy 0% down a property with up to 4 units has amazing potential for you guys to generate generational wealth for your families. So it's very, very cool. And we're gonna get into how to use that strategy more a little bit later. You can also use the VA loan to refinance an existing VA loan for a lower interest rate. And then you can also refinance another existing mortgage loan into a VA loan if you so choose. Okay, cool. Too close? Okay. So for the remainder of the slides, I kind of just wanted to break down the buying process, really simplified, steps 1 through 5, to kind of keep us on like a chronological path throughout the rest of the slides. So you guys, it's easier for you to follow. Okay, so step 1 in buying a house, you're gonna wanna get pre-approved. Then you're gonna want a house hunt. Do negotiations and get that thing under contract. And then once it's under contract, you do a lot of stuff until close timeline. So that's like the very simplified version. And I already talked about this, but real quick. So when you get pre-approved, your lenders are your experts. You can ask your freaking bomb Five Pillars agent all they want, and they're gonna know a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, your lender is the one who's gonna determine everything about your loan. So if you wanna know like the true story, you gotta talk to your lender on the real. And so here are some of the lenders that we commonly use. We already highlighted Casey, she's in the back, which is pretty awesome. Yup, all right. Okay, so when you talk to your lender, you're gonna be like, yo man, how much money can I get, right? That's what everyone wants to know. So there's no max loan amount for a VA loan. However, the VA does limit the amount that it guarantees. And right now, the VA guarantees, which means no down payment, for up to $484,350. So again, if you want to purchase over that, you're absolutely more than welcome to. Although for every amount that you purchase over that $484,000, you have to pay 25% of. So it's like the 25% down, just like a conventional loan. Does that make sense? You guys following me? Is everyone awake? Are you happy? Okay, cool, yay, awesome. All right, and then so I just went over the fact that there is essentially a cap on how much the VA will guarantee. However, changes are coming soon. There was a bill passed, Bill HR 299. It was signed into law, and effective the 1st of January 2020, there will be no entitlement cap. And so the rulemaking for this is still in process, and then the details have not been like finalized, they're not formally determined. But there's like a lot of rumors going on. And the biggest rumor is that this no caps the entitlement will actually apply to those with full entitlement. And granted, this is me spitballing right now, just know that. But yeah, so this will apply to like first-time home buyers or those who have sold their home and have full entitlement, who can move to San Diego, where unlike in Fayetteville, you can get a really nice house for $480,000. In like San Diego or LA or wherever, like that's not gonna get you crap, you know? So the intent of that change is to allow home buyers like across the country to buy with whatever they can qualify for with their credit and their income. Does that make sense? Okay, so what most of us investors out there are hoping that there's no cap at all and we can just continue to buy quadplex after quadplex and stock up our portfolios. We'll get, I'm hoping personally, but all right. As we know more for that, we're gonna like blast it out on our Pints Properties distro. So if you haven't signed in, make sure you see Katie there in the back. Yep, there she is. And sign in so your name gets on our distro if you want more information. Cool, it worked. Okay. Okay, so loan usage. After you understand how much you can get for it, now let's talk about what you can do with it. So you can use it repeatedly. A lot of people will tell me, I've already used my VA loan. Okay, cool, you can use it again. Awesome. And you can use it at the same time without having to sell your first. So story time real quick, back 2013, Second Lieutenant Shelby was at Fort Lewis, Washington, and I didn't know anything about real estate investing, but I did know I didn't want to pay someone else's mortgage. So I bought a little condo for $158, and when I PCS to Fort Bragg, I put a tenant in there and magically it cash flows. I was just lucky. And damn, appreciation in Fort Lewis, tell you what. But anyway, so I PCS to Fort Bragg and got the idea of investing. I was like, I should buy again. And so I bought a quadplex here for $250,000, and so 158 plus the 250, I was still underneath that entitlement, and I got both for 0% down. I currently own both and live in neither. So, pretty cool, right? Okay. All right, so wrong slide. Okay. Oh, if you pay off the loan in its entirety, you get to keep the property. Your entitlement can be fully restored on a one-time basis. It's just a fun fact. And after you purchase the first property, the next property that you purchase has to be $144,000 or higher, because they don't want you to go around and buy like $1,050,000 property 0% down, because that's an investor type of thing. So there are a couple rules. More basic loan details. Yeah, 0% down again, so basically everyone can afford it. Another joke, okay. So the VA loan is intended for primary residencies. You must intend to move in, but let's play out some scenarios. So people here are somehow related to the military, Fort Bragg, or whatever. And I talked to them and I'm like, hey, why haven't you used your VA loan? And they're like, oh, I've been told that I'm gonna PCS in 3 months. All right, cool, that happened to me too. Did I ever, deploy. Did I ever deploy? No, it's just like, the Army will do this to you. Hey, you're gonna do this. Hey, you're gonna do this. Stuff changes all the time, am I right? All the time. So don't wait. Go ahead and buy that property and then intend to live in it. If you move in, you buy the property and you move in and you get deployment orders, fill it with a tenant and buy again when you get back. It's not your fault. See what I'm saying? Picking up what I'm putting down here? Okay, cool. And then also you must intend to occupy the property within 60 days following closing. So that it's in regards, like when you're going to PCS, if you have orders and you want to buy before you get there, you can absolutely do that. You just have to intend to, when you PCS, to occupy that property. So a lot of people, okay, and the last one is technically there's no minimum amount of time required to live in the property. So the follow-on question when people start getting their wheels turning is, okay, so I can buy and I can close and then I can buy right away, right? No. So there's no amount of time that you have to live in the property, but lenders aren't dumb. They're pretty smart. So like if you close, you need to have a serious reason for why you need to move if you're gonna buy again in the same location, which I've had plenty of clients do. Buy twice right here at Fort Bragg, but they got married and they need more room. They got a divorce, they had to downsize. Or they changed units across Bragg. So now they want to live in Southern Pines and they don't want to live next to Yadkin Gate. So thinking of those reasons and talking with your lender gives you another way so you can use that VA loan more than once right here at Fort Bragg. Does that make sense? I'm like gauging you guys. No one fall asleep, please, gosh. All right, cool.
But does that surprise anybody? Is that something different than you guys have done before?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, for me it was, right? But that the USDA loan, it was, you had to stay in that property for a certain amount of time. So you know that it's kind of...
Yeah, any ahas so far?
Yeah.
Yeah? Awesome. We'll keep more. Cool. Okay, more basic. Is that a frog? Okay, more loan details, basic ones. So on a VA loan, there's no mortgage insurance, which is super cool because usually anything less than 20% down requires mortgage insurance, which cuts into your cash flow, my investors out there. So that's awesome. You have the right to prepay without penalty, also awesome. So when you PCS, if you do want to move, or if you want to do a live-in flip, which we're going to talk about with our strategies here in a minute, then you don't have any penalties for repaying the loan prior to the 30-year mark. Also, this loan is assumable to both veterans and non-veterans. So this is super cool because when you're talking to that guy in your unit and he bought a home that he hates and just wants to get rid of it, doesn't even care if he makes money off of it, but you know that he's owned that house for 10 years and he's paid down the mortgage and rent rates have increased and you know those numbers make sense, assume his loan, assume his payment and his equity, and he gets out and he's happy and you're happy too. Okay. And I already mentioned when using for the second time, your purchase must be over $144,000. Let's move into the super fun stuff, strategies. This is what I love. Okay, So whenever you're buying buying in general, investors, you always have to have the end in mind, right? You always have to have your exit strategy, or else you're gonna make a bad buy and then not know how to escape without coming out of pocket thousands and thousands of dollars. Okay, so let's go through a scenario. You are a normal person who doesn't think like an investor at all, and you just got pre-approved for $400,000, and that's awesome. And you go to Carolina Lakes and you buy the nicest house that you can freaking afford. Okay, awesome. So 3 years go by and you decide, you're PCSing, and you come to Shelby and you say, hey, Shelby, I want to sell my house. I'm like, okay, awesome. And I go check out the property, and it's Fayetteville, so the price hasn't appreciated at all. It's potentially depreciated. I don't know, we'll see. And I go and I'm like, yo, man, you're gonna have to pay $50,000 to sell this house. And they're like, what? And then they're like, oh no, it's cool, I'll just put a tenant in there. No, man, you just bought a house for $400,000 and your monthly payment is out the wazoo. No renter is gonna pay that amount, and now you are eating money every single month. So that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to be that person. You have to know that if your intent is, when you PCS in 2 or 3 years, is to sell, you have to buy right, because that's where you're going to make your money. And then also, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then also, if you're planning on renting, you're like, oh cool, I'll just turn it into a rental. You have to make sure that you buy right on that as well. And how many of you are familiar with the 1% rule? Okay, awesome. So there's a few that aren't. So quick numbers, quick math. If you're buying a property, let's say for $100,000, if it will rent for $1,000, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna cash flow a little bit, you're not gonna come out of your pocket, you're gonna be okay. If you buy in Carolina Lakes for $400,000 and your rent is $1,200, $1,400 a month, you are screwed, man. So, I mean, in a nice way. So, don't do that. And then also, I guess I'll talk this real quick. Okay, so in stats for 2018, 61% of homes sold between $100,000 and $250,000, that is, and the majority, the sweet spot, is $150,000 to $200,000. So if you're planning on selling, you want to make sure that you're in that realm, because anything above that is going to sit on the market, and you're going to PCS, you're going to be at Fort Lewis, and you're going to be paying 2 mortgage payments every month, or rent and a mortgage payment. So you don't want to do that. So just think about the sweet spot. I know you want the beautiful home. You don't want it that bad. Okay, cool. Next one, strategies 2, house hacking. So house hacking is one of the best ways for you to cut one of your biggest expenses in life. Literally, if you look at your bank statement, your biggest expenses are gonna be what? Rent, right? Holy crap. Okay, so house hacking is when you rent out a portion of your property, and then your tenants are the ones who pay that expense, and you can live for free. And potentially even cash flow if you do it right. So I'm gonna break down a little example. You can do that with a single family home. So if you have a single family home and you have a room in the basement and you don't care about having someone live in your house, charge, or get a buddy. Get your buddy to live in your basement or upstairs, and then they're gonna pay your rent every month. Awesome, house hacking. My favorite way to use house hacking is with this VA loan. You can buy up to 4 units. Get yourself a quadplex, live in 1 unit. You don't have to have someone in your house with you. Oh, it's weird. And then your 3 other units are paying you rent every single month. I'm like waiting for that to sink in. Yeah, how cool, right? Very cool. Okay, so those are 2 options to do house hacking. And then also, if you do, it's the same strategy. Let's say you have that quadplex, have 2 of them be like long-term tenants, they're gonna live there for a year. And take that last one and make it look real nice and use it as an Airbnb. Because Airbnbs can generate, what is it, Toby? Like 3 times as much as a long-term?
Yeah, minimum 200%.
200% more than a long-term rented. So Toby back there, wave again. You wanna wave? Yeah, so he is a property manager for Airbnbs. So he knows the stuff, he does all the numbers, all the things, but like it's actually really awesome. So consider outsourcing that. And then also just remember that when you do Airbnbs, it's really important that they look cool and they look cute. Because when you guys travel to Austin, you know, when you travel to wherever, Vegas, you're gonna pick the cutest looking Airbnb there, right? You don't want, make yours stand out. You know what I'm saying? Okay, cool. Okay, next one, live in flip. So Michael Glassby did this. Where is Mike? Oh, he's talking in the back. It's fine. Okay, so when you do a live-in flip, you're going to buy really well on the front side. You're going to have a lot of equity in this home. You're probably going to buy a foreclosure or something that no one wants because the carpet is gross, the paint is horrendous. You're going to buy it, and then when you live in it, because you intended to live in it, so in that year, however you want to live in it, you're going to slowly paint the walls. You're going to update the fixtures. You're going to rip out the carpet and make it pretty. By the time that year's up, you can sell and make, I think he made like 12 grand on his, which he did like bare minimum. He just lived in the property and fixed up like one thing a week for a year. So a live-in flip is an awesome thing to do. But you must buy with equity and focus on location. Location is everything. So ask a Five Pillars agent. Some houses fly off the market and others sit forever. You don't want yours to sit. And then don't skip on the rehab. When people are looking for flips, they want it to be nice. Oh, speaking of rehab, sorry, if you do want to outsource that and not do it yourself, T in the back, he's awesome. He's the contractor we use for like basically everything. So you should talk to him if you have any contractor questions. Part of our genius panel, or bar, whatever. Okay, cool. Another thing that you can do with your VA loan is, who's familiar with the BRRRR strategy? Yes, awesome. It's one of my favorites. So you guys can see it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. We missed the repeat on there. But in this BRRRR strategy, it's basically BRRRR but without the rent, if you wanted to do this. So you buy it gross, you rehab it, you refinance and pull out more money than you put into it, and now you have a chunk of change to do whatever you want with it. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. And then the equity play is very similar to the BRRRR strategy, except you do the same sort of thing. You buy cheap, you fix it up, and then once you have that equity in the home, you just do a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit, and the bank will lend you the difference, the amount of equity that you have in the home. They'll give you a line of credit for. So again, that line of credits are so cool. You can use it when you need to, and you pay interest only on the amount that you're using, and if you don't need it, you don't use it. It's like the coolest thing ever, guys. Okay, this is a rabbit hole I told myself I wasn't gonna do. I never had a line of credit. It was about a month ago. I was just like, screw it, I'm gonna walk. I walked into the bank, and I was like, hey, I want a line of credit. And like, no crap, they didn't pull anything. I signed some papers and I walked out with $70,000 in the line of credit. Dude, like, I don't even have it. I've been a real estate, like, I don't have an income every two weeks. They just lent it. It was ridiculous. So First Citizens, do it. Okay.
Tina's actually here today too.
Oh, Tina.
She's back.
I don't know you, but I'm sure you're great.
At First Citizens, that's what
Yeah, I know Sherry, but Tina's very cool. Okay, awesome. Oh, this is my favorite. It's the max Bing method. So this might be a little bit much for our straight, fresh newbie investors. Dude, this is my favorite. Okay, so hypothetically, hypothetically, you meet some crusty old dude and he owns 4 quads outright, and he has this portfolio. He has a portfolio of 4 quads that he owns outright. And he says, I will do seller financing for you, but I need 25% down. And you're like, crap, I don't have $250,000. Why don't you use your VA loan to buy one? Give him the $250,000 and then get the other 3 for free. Do you see what I'm saying? VA loan, 0% down, close on one, and that is his 25% down payment that he's looking for. And then you roll the rest, the other 3 are part of your portfolio that you now own. And you have one loan for 0% down. Does that make sense? Holy crap! I can't wait to use it. I just can't get another VA loan right now. But, okay. I want to coin that term. All right, let's talk about some costs to expect. Ooh, time. How are we on time? 3:59, okay. I won't take too much more time. But are you guys getting stuff out of this? Any ahas?
Oh, yeah.
Cool, okay, awesome. Let's talk about some costs to expect, because, I just told you basically you can get a house for free, right? Okay, there's a couple costs that you want to talk about, which you can get these for free if you're smart about it. So let's talk about that. When you're buying a home in North Carolina, due diligence and earnest money are essentially deposits that you put down that if you close on the home, it's going to be credited back towards your closing costs. I can go into more details at another time, but today's not that day. But due diligence and earnest money is usually anywhere from $250 to $500 each. So know that that's a cost to expect. Next is the appraisal. So when you buy a home, your lender gets a third party to come out and assess the value of the home, which is called an appraisal, and that costs on a single family $550. Am I right, Lynn? Casey? $525. That's on VA. I love that you're here. Thank you. And then if you buy a multifamily, that is going to be more expensive because they charge per door. And then also with inspections, you are going to want a home inspection. I promise you, you're going to want it. It's not required, but you want it. The termite inspection is another one that you're going to want to get. However, the seller pays for it for a VA loan, so you don't have to worry about that cost. If the home that you're purchasing has a well or has a ventless fireplace, those are 2 more inspections that are going to be required for VA before they will approve the loan. Closing costs is a big chunk of change. So that's anywhere $5,000 to $7,000 is what I see the most, but I've seen more, I've seen less. So keep that in mind. The VA funding fee, on the next slide I'll get into that, and then just miscellaneous extras pop up throughout the process. Fun fact, buyers do not pay for their real estate agents. So we're free for you guys, not for sellers, that sucks, but cool. So the VA funding fee. So the first time you use it, it's going to be 2.15% of the purchase price is the funding fee, and then the follow-on uses are 3.3% right now. That fee can be rolled into the loan, which is awesome. You don't have to pay that out of pocket. You can roll it into the loan. However, what did I just talk about? Carolina Lakes, you're buying a $400,000 home, and now you just rolled more into it. You're already underwater before you even sign those closing papers. You see what I'm saying? So again, it goes back to buying smart. But okay, you cannot, so you can roll your funding fee, you cannot roll your closing costs, because that's the question I always get. I'll just roll them into the loan. No, can't do it. But if you are a disabled veteran, 10% or more, all of your funding fees are waived, which is awesome. And then also, if you had a disability claim pending when the loan closed, you can go back and get reimbursed for the funding fee. Also awesome. The funding fee does apply on refinances. Okay, let's talk about how to not make you spend all of this money, right? Let's talk about how to save money for you. Okay, so on VA loans, and actually any loans, you can ask for seller concessions. So on VA in particular, the seller can provide 4% of the purchase price in seller concessions along with all customary closing costs. So that's a ton of money. If we break it down, for example, you're buying a $200,000 house. Right away, that's 4% of that is $8,000 in seller concessions. That can cover $6,000 in closing costs, $500 in a home warranty, and then the remainder, that $1,500 extra. Do you remember on this last slide how you paid for an appraisal, you paid for a home inspection, you paid for all those other things? Oh, I thought it died. Okay. As long as you can prove that you paid those expenses, you can be reimbursed at the closing table. I've had many clients walk away with checks at closing, and then they're super happy. Yeah? So, okay, does that all make sense? Okay, so the confusing part, which is why you have to be besties with your lender, is the 4% of purchase price plus all customary closing costs, because the lender is the one who's going to tell you straight up how much the seller can pay for you. Okay, and so you can't get back more than you put in. So they'll reimburse you for the appraisal and the home inspection, all that stuff. But if the seller agreed to pay $10,000 and you only use $6,000, you can't pocket $4,000. Okay. Any more ahas? Are you guys learning stuff? Okay, I'm gonna stop doing that. That was the last time. Okay. Another thing on the negotiations, there's this thing called the additional provisions addendum that real estate agents can do for you, and it's essentially your wish list. So for investors in particular, things that you're gonna want to write down and specify is that you're gonna want the prorated rent, right? If you close on the 1st, you don't want them keeping the rent for the month that you own it. You wanna keep it, right? If you're living in a multifamily and you have 3 people paying, yeah, that sort of thing. Spare keys, security deposits, and then another thing a lot of people will hit me with was, oh, I can't buy because I just signed a lease. Ask for the seller to pay the lease fee for you. I've done that several times. They pay the fee to get out of your lease. Okay, repair requests. You can also request repairs on the additional provisions addendum, but let's play out a scenario real quick. So we just talked about on the last slide how 4% is the cap for seller concessions to pay for your stuff, right? 4%. Let's say hypothetically your T. Dudley walks the property, and he comes back and he's like, it's gonna be $30,000 in repairs. And you're like, holy crap, that's more than 4%. So what are you gonna do? A workaround that not a lot of people use or know about is if the seller wants to provide a concession to a contractor to fix and make repairs, it's not to you, therefore not breaking any rules. So, does that make sense? And on a closing disclosure, when you're at the closing table and you're buying a property, there's an underwriter who works with the lender who's going to review it and make sure you're not breaking any rules. When they're reviewing it and they see that T. Duds is getting $10,000 for repairs, it doesn't show that Sleeves up here is getting the money, so therefore it's okay. But the end state is met, you're still getting the repair allowance. Does that make sense? Very cool, awesome. All right, and then with negotiations, just understand that everything you ask for is coming from the seller's bottom line. So I just hyped you up. I was like, we're gonna get all this stuff for free. Now I'm about to bring you back down to reality a little bit, is like, there's another person on the opposite side of this deal. And everything you ask for is coming directly out of their pocket and giving it to you. It's out of their bottom line. So just understand and don't be ridiculous. You really need to ask your agent for their expertise on all of these sort of things, just because if you want the house, you can't ask for everything and get the house too. So it's a fine line. Does that make sense? And then also, yeah, at the end of the day, sellers don't have to give you anything. A lot of people will come to me and they're like, well, seller pays closing costs. No, they don't. They're your closing costs. You can ask for the seller to pay your closing costs. Maybe he'll say yes. You know what I'm saying? When in doubt, ask your Five Pillars agent. Okay. Once you're under contract, so from start to close, once you go under contract is usually 30 to 45 days. After you go under contract, you're going to schedule inspections. And after the inspections come back, that's when you're going to ask the seller for any major items. These are safety hazards. These are big ticket items. You're not going to ask for weather stripping. You're not going to ask for them to tighten a doorknob, that sort of thing. And then also once you go under contract, an appraisal, that appraisal we talked about will be ordered. And two quick notes on this. The first, there is a VA FHA financing addendum that protects the buyer from paying more than the property is worth. So when the appraiser goes out there and he says this property is worth $200,000, but you're under contract for $205,000, the VA is not going to lend $205,000. They're going to lend $200,000. So that's when your agent goes back and negotiates and say, hey man, it's not worth that much. We got to come down. You know, how are we going to make this work, type of thing. But that VA FHA addendum is what protects you from overpaying for a property. So if you back out, you get to keep your earnest money, even though you've backed out. Sometimes when appraisers go out there, they will require some repairs, but it's not as crazy as most people think. Like, people get scared about VA appraisals. They're not that scary. And if you're an investor, this is your time to do your due diligence. Make sure you review those leases, you interview the property manager who's current and see if you want to change out, and determine your way ahead. Like that 30 days, you should be doing research, you should be planning your investment. Okay, cool. Real quick, I'm going to tell an awesome story. So Daniel Kidd, a lot of you guys know him. He is not here today. He's at a wedding. He's one of the pillars. Quadplex, listed at $292, which is obscene for the home place quads. If you guys know them, they're off Ramsey. It's like a whole neighborhood of quads. It was listed at $292, and we offered, this is sound ridiculous, we offered $295 because we knew other people were bidding on this property. We knew it was way overpriced, but we bid $295 to beat out the competition because we understand that the appraised value, I knew right then it was $255. I knew because I know that neighborhood. I own one of those quads. So we knew that when the VA appraiser went out there, he was going to tell us the property was worth $255. But we locked it in because there was other people competing for that property. We locked it in, and we knew it would come down to $255. And holy crap, after the home inspection, that it came back literally insane. So somehow we got the seller to drop to $255,000 purchase price, negotiated $28,000 in a repair allowance that was paid to a contractor, not to Dan because that would not have worked. And he also got $6,500 in closing costs, and he paid $156 out of pocket. So that's just a cool story about what is possible out there. Okay, almost done, guys, promise. Just a little more. Okay, foreclosures are awesome. A lot of people are scared of foreclosures and they don't think the VA will lend on them. There are so many foreclosures out there that just need a little bit of paint. They just need a little spackle. They need some new carpet, and then they are good to go. Don't be scared of that. And as is does not always mean as is, especially when it comes to VA appraisals. If there's something that the appraiser requires, the VA can make that repair, and then whatever the cost is, they'll add it into the purchase price. Does that make sense? So, a lot of people don't know that. And then the other stuff, own your own contract. Everyone here is, all the vendors and everyone are here to support you, but at the end of the day, it's all about your responsibility for your actions and then your future investment portfolio. Okay, I already talked about the Genius Bar. They're back there for any questions you may have. And then the last thing is, if you want, after this, we're gonna hang out and drink beers and all that stuff, but I have done turnkey rental and house hacking. Mike Glassby, where are you at? He's back there. He's done live and flip and house hacking. Dan Kidd's not here, but he's done house hacking in Airbnb. Brandon, where are you at? There he is. He's done house hacking. And Jess Franco. She is our newest agent. She just passed and got her license a week ago, so congrats to her. Yay. Very exciting. So the reason why I point that out is because if you want to hear how we did it, ask. All right, last. If you post a pic and hashtag Pints Properties free real estate shirt, Emma already put that out. But do it. Our shirts are getting really cool, like the iBurr, like the iMultifamily, iHouse Hack. They're really cool. And then our old classics as well. At this time, does anyone have any questions? Yes?
So the Dan example you had earlier, did Dan live in one of those vacant?
He did. Yes. He did not live there for a very long time, but he did. Yes. And that is something, that's a good point. When you are buying a quad or you're buying any sort of property that has tenants in there, one of the units must be vacant or must become vacant within 60 days following closing, or else the VA won't loan on it, because you have to be able to move in. Thanks for your question. Anyone else?
Question on that scenario, why wouldn't you bid down that asking price? You gave concessions to that general contractor?
Yeah. Because Dan didn't have the money to do the repairs. So in that case, the seller truly paid for the repairs, whereas if they drop purchase price, that'd be awesome. His monthly payment would be lower, but he still would need $28,000. Yes?
So you missed the VA rental loan?
Yes.
Up there. Is that essentially a two-prepaid version of a VA, or is that just energy efficient?
No, they're different. So there's the energy efficient one, and then it's also, it's similar to the 203K, and Casey is the one who knows a lot of details on that. She's in our Genius Bar. Any more questions? Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming out. It's been lovely. Grab a beer and we'll all hang out and talk about some real estate stuff. Yeah? Okay, cool.